going to give you guys some tips on how to fish when it's really cold. It was about 15 below this morning with like a 20-mile-an-hour wind, and that puts the wind chill at around 35 below or so. So I'm in the shack right now, fishing in my new Eskimo, and I just have a sunflower heater set up in here, and I've also got my little buddy heater set up in here, and I can kind of control the temperature between those two. And I'm just doing some more sight fishing, kind of like in my last video, watching the camera down here and catching bass, pike. It's been a fun morning. There's some things that a lot of people kind of forget or don't pay attention to when it comes to fishing in cold weather. 10 mistakes people make, I guess, and they're easy to make. I've made them, and I just kind of wanted to run through those 10 things right now. So one thing to remember, first mistake is not keeping your batteries warm enough. Most of you guys are running battery powered, electric augers. Those lithium batteries just don't hold up to the cold. They don't perform well at all. So what I like to do when I head out ice fishing is either put them on my dash of my truck if I have my truck, or a lot of them come with a little cooler, or you can buy a little cooler and then just put some of those bigger hand warmer heat packs in there with your batteries, and those will keep them warm for most of the day, 8 hours or so. So that's mistake number one, not keeping your batteries warm. Mistake number two, you'd think would be kind of obvious, but I've made this mistake a couple times. Make sure you bring enough propane. There's times where I just thought, 1 or 2 tanks should be good to go, and then I end up sitting in my shack all day and running the heater on high and basically running out of propane with a couple hours left to fish. And if it's 30 below wind chill, you're not going to last very long without heat. So make sure you bring enough 1-pound cylinders, or like I've got now behind me here, I've got a 20-pound cylinder, full tank, sunflower heater. That thing cranks out plenty of BTUs to keep this shack warm even in the wind and well below zero. So 20-pound cylinder is a nice option just to make sure you have enough fuel. So that's mistake number two, not bringing enough propane. And mistake number three is not bringing something to cover your face. Sometimes we've got the luxury of bringing a pickup and having a warm place to sit, but we don't always have that. So sometimes we're out on four-wheelers, sometimes we're out on snowmobiles. You get 30 below wind chills, it will cool your face down quick and you can get frostbite. I got frostbite one time right on the bridge of my nose from my sunglasses where they touched my nose. A snowmobile helmet is always a good idea. That kind of covers your whole face and gives you a face shield. Otherwise, goggles, a nice pair of like snowboard goggles or ski goggles are nice to cover your eyes up and keep your eyes from tearing up in the wind. And then some sort of face mask, either a warm face mask or even one of these neck gaiters. These help quite a bit. Even though they're not very thick, the wind gets pushed off your face a little bit, and they help that way. So make sure you cover your face. Not covering your face and having some way to keep your face warm when you're running a machine is mistake number three. Mistake number four, I would say, is fishing too aggressively after a cold front. I'm running way down to small, tiny minnows on like a teardrop that can hold that minnow in place and just let it swim so it can't even move. And those fish will just come up, swim right up to it, and they'll just suck it in. And that's what I'm doing right now. I've got 2 jaw jackers behind me with little baby crappie minnows on them, and I've already caught 2 fish on those. And here comes another bass right now. So I swim it fairly aggressively at first, but when they start getting closer, I slow it way down. So that's mistake number 4, is not fishing slow enough. So mistake number 5 is not using hole covers. If you guys have ever seen them, they're just basically a piece of flexible foam that slides over your hole and has a slot in it for either your tip-up spindle or your line coming off a jaw jacker. If you don't use those and it's this cold out, your holes are going to freeze your tip-ups in like every 5 to 10 minutes, and you're going to have to clean those holes out constantly. One little tip that I've done before is when I'm using hole covers and it's really cold, I'll actually mount some nice powdery snow up over the top of them, and that insulates them even more, and you won't see much ice formation at all if you do that. So so you're not busting spindles and trying to get that thing out of there when it goes up and a fish is on it. So mistake number 5, not using hole covers. I'd say mistake number 7 is not bringing enough gear. Oftentimes ice fishing, we stress being able to move, mobility, basically running light on gear. But when it's really cold out, you do not want to be missing things. Bring extra heater, bring an extra shelter, bring extra propane, bring all the stuff you think you'll need, and then bring another one, because cold weather tends to break stuff. There's been times we've been out and I couldn't start my heater. It was too cold. It was 30 below wind chill, and that's a big problem if you don't have a backup. So mistake number 7 is not bringing enough gear. So mistake number 8 is not having the right clothing. Obviously clothing makes a huge difference when you're out on the ice in cold weather. The biggest thing that gets cold is your hands, and one way that I've figured out to keep my hands as warm as possible is mittens. You gotta have mittens, you gotta have choppers, put hand warmers in those things, and you can keep your hands warm in unbelievably cold weather. And then as far as outerwear, I wear Norfin. I've never gotten cold in Norfin gear. I could be out hole hopping right now if I really wanted to be. If I could keep my hands warm and my holes from freezing up, I probably would be, but the Norfin gear I have, the Discovery Heat, it's not going to fail on you. That stuff's unbelievable. So, but just make sure you have a good set of outerwear especially when you're running a machine. You really want a nice shell to keep that wind off you and keep the heat in. So mistake number 8 is not wearing warm enough clothes. Mistake number 9, I've made this mistake a couple times, and that's going to a spot on either a four-wheeler, or snowmobile, or in your truck, not starting it the whole day and letting the engine cool down, and then not being able to start it when you want to leave. Now what I do is every 3 or 4 hours at least, I go start my machine, let it run, let it warm up again, and just keep that thing in running condition. Because the last thing you want when it's this cold is a machine that won't start. So mistake number 9, not warming your equipment up. So mistake number 10 is not going fishing. I've seen a lot of guys, when it's really cold, they just chicken out and don't go. I went today, it's 30 below wind chill, and I've had an absolute blast catching a limited bass, pike, perch, sight fishing out here. And you can see I'm in a sweatshirt. I'm perfectly comfortable in my shack. I just have one heater and a pop-up Eskimo hub shelter, and I'm warm as can be. Make sure you stake it down, of course, in the wind, so you don't have the thing blow away on you. But other than that, these new shelters that have come out in the last few years and the heaters we have now, there's no excuse, even if you don't have a big wheelhouse, to not get out fishing when it's cold. So mistake number 10 is not going fishing. You guys go out, get out there, go fishing, and get hooked up even in 30 below wind chill. It's totally worth it. Catch you next time.